Welcome back to Bros in a Landfill, where ironically One Piece is the one TV show I'm not pirating. I'm one of your hosts, Lunchbillion.
I'm your other host, Trybien, and uh, Lunch has started watching One Piece.
Yeah, we're talking about anime, but it's me this time, so that's fun. Um,
Ooh,
yeah, I haven't watched that much of it. I may have watched even
yeah.
less than 10 episodes, but I'm in the
I,
early
that's
stage. But
that is
that's
right around what I've watched. That's
oh,
we're right in
excellent.
the same ballpark.
Well, that's convenient. Yeah, I don't know. This is a show where we talk about anime and stuff, and I figured I'd talk about this a little bit because I don't know. I think it's interesting. It's fun to have a new show to watch. I'm a, I will admit that I'm a little bit terrified to get into One Piece because I think One Piece is still going,
Bruh,
and will be for a couple of years.
I've been watching Detective Conan with Helen, and we're like solid like deep in the 800s.
Oh
Like, and
God.
like we, we are almost caught up. We are like we're near the 900s, and I think that's where the show is right now. Like, yeah, if we can do it, you can do it.
That is a terrifying amount of numbers. Uh,
I think the sad thing about Conan is the amount of reused ideas that they have because like when you get to the filler episodes, like it's kind of nuts. I think the funniest ones though are when you watch an episode that's a filler episode and you watch like a manga episode which was written before the anime episode, but it uses so many of the plot points from like similar twists and plot points from the anime episode. It's like, did these filler episodes just rip off this manga chapter and then they made the manga chapter in the anime like right afterwards?
that's like that seems quite hard to believe in a show about solving mysteries. That's really immersion breaking. I know
But
we're meant to be talking about One Piece, but like, do
I
the
know.
characters age in Conan?
There is a there in Conan, no, it's like perpetual like they upgrade the technology as it goes, but it's been like 1990 something for like 20 years just with newer technology.
That's terrifying.
Like if we're talking about like in all reality, like they like since they do celebrate like holidays in the seasons, like Conan should be back to like his regular age at this point. Like and like it should be kind of fucked up, which is I think also because there's an OVA episode where Conan has a nightmare where he's like he didn't return back to normal and he's like a teenager and then like Rand's all like depressed because Shinichi never returned.
Damn,
Yeah,
sounds dark.
yeah.
It's funny. So like, I've seen I've seen imagery from One Piece over the years, uh, and some of the stuff that happens, but I have no context for any of it. So like I don't know what's going to happen like in a practical sense. But like I've seen like in the show like I've just recently met Nami, and like I've seen
Ah,
pictures of Nami now, and like she looks like a normal ordinary person in the part that I've seen, and all the other pictures I've seen she looks like a fucking like
the
caricature of an hourglass, like fucking
okay,
like the most
the des-
giant
the designs.
noodly
Yeah,
giant boobs
I,
monstrosity ever.
I gotta say that the designs get even more ridiculous. Like after the time skip, like like okay, yeah, there's goofy designs in like the beginning, but it's they felt like they felt grounded and stuff. It's like okay, you have like Shark Guy Arlong, but there's a level of grit to him. But then after time skip, Luffy gets big, bulbous, like round muscles and gets incredibly jacked when he powers up.
The
And it's
thought
like,
that like this show that what I'm seeing so far you describe as grounded is hilarious and terrifying because
I
it's
know.
like what
Well, no, no.
ungodly monstrosity is gonna show up next? Is that
Well,
fucking
I'm
like
sorry.
pirate who's got like a fucking he's got like robot shit. He's got like a fin coming out of his arm. He's like
Yeah.
a million miles tall.
Like, yeah, I think the show just like One Piece, like as a franchise, just gets more absurd as it goes. Where at the beginning, like it did feel like just like this humble, oh, super powered fruit pirates show. Like there was like this level of grit and like stuff, and then over time it just gets more and more colorful, cartoon wacky.
I wanna actually to get into talking about the actual show. I wanna mention how I actually really like the vibe and aesthetic of this show a lot, and the kind of atmosphere, because I like shonen, but I actually haven't seen like all the shonens or anything. Like
Hmm.
I'm a fan of Dragon Ball. I'm a fan of My Hero Academia. I did watch a decent amount of Naruto. Um, and I like how One Piece to me feels a little bit early Dragon Ball in that like it's kind of just like having fun with itself, and it's not like a because like you look at Naruto and My Hero Academia, and they're so dramatic, and I do love how they try and like you know twist your heartstrings and stuff, but like everything is the most intense and important thing that's ever happened. Characters are crying, uh, with like feelings of emotional resolution, and like, man, I was beaten up as a child, and my life sucks, but now I'll do better. And then like in One Piece, it's like there's this guy who can stretch because he ate the stretchy fruit, and you're like, wow, like I wonder how that happened. Like I wonder what Luffy's backstory is. And then we do a whole episode of his backstory, and he's just like at a bar, and there's just a fruit in a box, and he eats it. And it's
Actually,
like that's it. It's like he's hanging out with his pirate friends and eats a fruit, and they're like, "Did you just eat that fruit? You're not allowed to. Now you're stretchy." And he's like, "Oh no, that like that was that's why he can do that." Um, and he wants to be a pirate because he just knew a pirate when he was a kid, and the pirate gave him his hat.
actually, actually, you bring up the Dragon Ball comparison actually kind of makes sense because like it's I'm sorry to just realizing that there is kind of this weird like shonen trope, but I think it's because of Dragon Ball, where like you have the original Dragon Ball, where it's kind of like this goofy Saturday morning cartoon, like
Yes.
where you people go around. There's like sometimes dramatic stuff, but then there's the time skip and everything gets edgy.
Right. So I guess that's gonna happen at some point. But I'm at least
Yeah,
liking this early part where like,
yeah,
it's whimsical is the word. Like shit just kind of
yeah.
happens. Uh,
Like,
like, and it's funny because like on the surface, like Luffy and Naruto are like very similar characters, where like they both have like a strong sense of principles, and they want to like be the underdog and get the highest place in their society. Like I want to be the Hokage, or I want to be king of the pirates. It's like it seems like all the same tropes, but like Naruto is like struggling against societal pressures and against everything everyone who ever told him he was nothing, you know.
hmm
Um and Luffy is just having fun with it. He's just like,
yeah,
yeah, I want to do something, so I'm gonna do it. And like
hmm
he doesn't feel the need to prove himself really, like because like at the moment Nami doesn't trust him because he's a pirate. And it's like pirates are awful and you're terrible, and like he just like doesn't pay any attention to it, and he just like bees himself, and she sees from his actions what kind of person he is, and slowly changes her mind. So yeah, I think the vibe is fun, and I like that it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not too dramatic. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's like an adventure. So that's cool.
I am. My brain's like killing me right now because like there's another like anime character that I'm trying to think of right now that follows like the same sort of trope of shit. If it's an anime I was just watching, I hate it. Where it's like, oh, like I fuck, I'm gonna pull up my anime list. I'll probably remember it
I
if I
don't
look
blame
at
you for
that.
getting
But
confused. Like you
yeah,
watch
there's so yeah,
hundreds of shows.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like no, but from my experience watching One Piece, it's early on. I was like, I totally see why this was as popular as it is. Like, there's just like this. It's what I think One Piece gets right over so many other shonen is its world building,
Well, that's
and
I've heard a lot about that,
and
and this is what I'm most fascinated to see how it turns out because at the moment it seems like it doesn't give a shit about world building. It's like it's the most ridiculous like scenario ever. Like there's just these massive freaking like dudes like it seems like whatever happens in an episode is whatever they felt like drawing that week, and like cool.
mhm.
That's fine. That's quite a fun approach for a show. But I'm just, it's funny to me that apparently it's eventually going to cobble together into like this epic world with nations and laws and like pirate figures and stuff. It's like, man, if I was going to do that, I'd be really careful in the first episode to not establish anything too stupid. Um,
Yeah,
but they're going for it.
yeah. Well, yeah, well, what I think like really works in that sense is because it's a show where you're traveling from island to island, like you're never set in one place for too long, and you're able to establish like these different factions, these different ways of life, and it makes it feel like a living, breathing world.
Right. because like you just focus on one little episodic part at a time, but before you know it, all these islands are on a world map, and it's like, oh shit, this world's actually huge. And then I guess
Mhm.
you can start building from there, and you can go back to old characters like obviously the guy who gave Luffy his straw hat is like supposedly out there. So that would be a cool like thing to
Yeah.
maybe come back to later. So I can see the potential, and it's
Mhm.
cool to know that like people are nowadays so invested in its world. Because I love lore and world building, but I also just hope it's good. I always found the world building of Naruto to be a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's because the thing about Naruto's world building is like I feel like Kishimoto as an author is really good at telling like these sort of heartfelt stories. Like the world always felt more like a backdrop to justify this ninja stuff.
Yes,
Like it
absolutely. But
like
like
there's no
that's
sense of
weird because the tone seems to demand a world that makes sense. Um,
well, I guess here's the thing about Naruto. Naruto's a show about history and it's a show about legacy and it's like about these characters and all these um all like the influence and the um what like the things passed down from generation
mhm.
and like and I feel like it works. It's a show that works more about like symbols and relationships and how um we're all just products of the shit that we went through. We're all products like we're all damaged and stuff, and then it brings in super villains in the Shippuden arc, and it
No,
goes down. But
I think that like the characters and the plot lines do a great job of expressing the main idea of the story, and I think that's great. Um, I just wish that like I just feel like you really have to suspend your disbelief to believe that the world exists in this way. Um,
I mean, isn't that like most shonen? I mean, like Dragon Ball's world makes very little sense if you actually like think about it.
I
Um,
feel like Dragon Ball's world is just not super important to what's actually happening. I mean, I don't know. It's just like there's flying cars, but in the desert there's like
well, I was
I
talking
don't
about
know.
like all the alien planets too, but
But
like
like we don't go into
Dra-
that stuff in any depth. Like
well, I guess
Dragon Ball world building is like a puddle. So like
yeah,
I mean, you can
I think
say like, oh, there's no way Doctor Gero could make a robot stronger than Frieza if you want to, I guess. But like,
um, I guess if we're talking about Naruto, the reason Naruto worked at its best in the early parts when it was just like these warring political factions. Like you didn't really need to have much like there wasn't much sense of the scale of
yes,
like it's when you start getting into Shippuden or like even some of the filler stuff where the world is becoming a bit more interconnected that it starts feeling a bit falling apart. But when you're focusing on like the individual like villages, the like interpersonal political dramas going on, then it can be really like interesting and engaging.
well,
But
I'm kind of just thinking like I'm looking at One Piece and I'm like, I can only imagine this turns out like Naruto world building. Like if they're just going to a new island every day with some crazy new concept for fun, like surely when it all comes together, it's gonna be a mess of ridiculousness. But apparently people love the
I
world building, and it's one of the best things about it. So like
but I think
I can't
but I
wait to
guess what
see how they pull it off.
but here's the other thing I would say with One Piece. One Piece thrives in its ridiculousness. Naruto always took itself seriously.
Yeah, well, that's right. So I think that's obviously a strength of One Piece, or it's like
I,
One Piece's world meshes with what One Piece is. Naruto's
mhm,
world is kind of undermines what Naruto is because of the tone.
mhm. Well, and that's what I was saying. It's like because Naruto at its core is more of a about the politics and it's about like like the clashings of ideologies and the like legacies and stuff. So when you're dealing about when you're dealing with some of the more goofy premises they or I would say even the humor a lot of the time falls flat in Naruto because it just feels out of place.
I can agree. I can agree. Um, yeah, it's a serious fucking story. One Piece feels free to fuck around, and I like that
Yeah.
about it. And also like to slightly like so we don't just go around in circles. I really like how
Yeah.
it looks. Um,
Oh yeah.
like it seems I don't know exactly when the show started. It's this is at least this part of the show
I think
seems
it's
like before anime went fully digital.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But like
I'm
it's also maybe is it like early 2000s or something like that.
um
Um,
I can look that up. I
please do.
will say I prefer like the old art style like over like the newer designs.
Yeah,
I
I can
sent
see
you
it going that well.
yeah I sent you the image of Luffy going Gear 4 if you want to
Yeah,
see
that
what that.
you know what like props to make like it's like Luffy is like one of those really iconic like simple like character designs, you know. Like I feel like it's kind of ballsy to make this his ultimate form.
Well,
Like
it's not
this
even
is
his
the
ultimate. Like he has a new ultimate form
all
that's
right,
even
all
more
right. Well, don't tell me
ridiculous.
too much because
Yeah,
that's
no,
like that's in 700 episodes. But
you're not
um,
even gonna remember this conversation by the time we get there.
sure. But I'll remember this fucking image. I'll see this when
Yeah,
I close my eyes at night.
yeah.
Um,
Like that image showed up on plenty of like posters and stuff, so I was kind of like
no,
forced
it's
to
okay.
look at it.
I've seen this. Like when I say like I've seen like a few bits of like imagery about One Piece, like this is one of the things where he just looks insane. Um, but at least this current part of One Piece, I really like the look of it. Like it's simple. There's not too much shading or detail, but like the characters still look like they have presence and weight, even though he's like a weird stretchy boy. Um, it just like everything looks like it's done with like simply with finesse.
Hmm.
I really like the color palette. It's not this super overly saturated, a million colors at once thing that many anime are. Um,
Well, many anime these days, like I will always like when anime do more of that like early 2000s
oh
like
yeah, yeah. A lot of
style.
more classic anime is similar in that like it's the colors are more washed out and it's less loud. And
Well,
I
it's
think
like
One Piece does a good
it's
job of that.
easier it's easier on the eyes, I feel. Like
Oh,
it's like
much easier.
yeah.
Like Naruto is so saturated, so bright, so or like lots of anime.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Super like not only is everything bright, there's like highlight colors on every single part of their body, so everyone is shiny. And that's weird. In One Piece, like the characters are basically pretty much just one flat color, um,
Hmm.
and it's more washed out and more
Yeah.
naturalistic. And the lines are actually that's another thing. They're way less angular than in other shows. Like not
Hmm.
everything is sharp. Everything's more round. It's kind of like what they were going for in Dragon Ball Super Broly. While that movie's actually kind of inconsistent with how it looks, like a lot of the redesigned versions of Goku and Vegeta were made up of round lines that were just like just nice and soft to look at. And while I'm of two minds about how well it fits in Dragon Ball, it fits the casual adventure vibe of One Piece really well.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm just I don't want to like I don't know what else I should say about One Piece. It could just because I don't want to spoil too much of it. I watched quite a bit of it when I was a kid, not like episode by episode because like wasn't able to keep up with TV that much, but like
Yeah.
I'd catch episodes here and there, and like one thing I'd say One Piece is very good at is like those like I think it's like it's those hype moments and like when Luffy's having his victory, like when Luffy's like defeating someone, or like even if it's not Luffy, it's like whatever. Like One Piece like nails it with the rule of cool that I think a lot of
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
shonen
that because the show hasn't really
like
gone for badass within the first like couple of episodes.
yeah. Well, like I would say like even like some of like the best shonen out there doesn't do rule of cool quite as well as One Piece does. But
Hmm.
do you know what part of that is? Reason is
What?
okay, what is one of the key techniques for animation to make it look smooth and
Squash
believable?
and stretch.
And what does Luffy do?
He squashes and he stretches.
Yes,
It's genius.
Luffy. Luffy was made for animation. Like,
Yeah, it is
like it's
fun. There's a part in like the opening sequence where he fucking punches a dude like in a stretchy way, and it's so satisfying to look at.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's cool. I don't know. What a fun show. I really like the theme song as well. I know that every anime
Yeah.
has like 10 theme songs because it keeps changing.
Which. Okay, here's a question. Which dub are you watching? Are you watching the Japanese
I'm
dub or one
watching
of the
the
English
Japanese
dubs?
version because like
Okay.
I heard like I think there's like two English dubs. Like one of them is
Yeah.
like the 4 Kids version
Okay.
where
There's
there's
there's a
like
four kids.
lollipops instead of cigarettes. I'd heard about all that and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well I don't want the actual art to be fucked with that much.
Yeah.
Not that I
You're an
like,
art guy,
not
obviously.
that I necessarily hate like 4 Kids totally on principle. I think the Pokemon dub is fantastic.
Of
Um,
course.
but I heard of what they did to One Piece and I was like, okay, that's a bummer. Um, but I think the other One Piece dub is by Funimation, if I'm correct.
That
And
is
and I think
correct.
like Chris Sabat is like one of the main guys, and it's like, I just I don't want this show to sound like other shows that I've seen.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
distract. The idea of Chris Sabat, I think he's Zoro, which
I don't know the cast for the.
that just seems like
I've
really distracting to me because like
well see
I
the
imagine he's just doing
pro.
another like cool guy, deep cool guy voice,
Well,
which would fit into his
here's the
obvious
problem.
range.
Yeah. Here's the problem for me. I can't watch the Funimation dub because the I grew up watching the Four Kids dub, and
Right.
those voices are like
That's
I can
their
watch the
English voices
Japanese
to you.
dub. It's like I can watch the Japanese dub because like I've got that like whatever, but um yeah, it's like when I hear like some of like the voices that are changed, it's not this it hurts. It's distracting.
Right. No, I totally get that. Because like you could probably make a dub of Dragon Ball now that is like more faithful to the original, but like to
Hmm.
us, Vegeta is a gruff, deep-voiced, gravelly guy, even though he's not in the original. It's like that's and Piccolo is this deep Batman register, and that's just part of what Dragon Ball is to us because that's what we saw as kids. Um, but yeah, I will say that I really like the Japanese voice cast in One Piece. I think they're full of fun energy. Um, I'm pretty sure Luffy's voiced by the same actress as Krillin,
Oh.
and it's like you don't really notice it, or like you kind of forget because like it's such a different character, and she just embodies that sense of fun and exuberance really well. Um, I think Zoro sounds really cool in like a kind of an over the top way, but it's perfect for what kind of show it is. I think it's fun.
I would say that maybe like if you get a chance like maybe check out some of the original voice cast because there's a lot of voice actors there you don't see a lot these days. Like
That's another thing I like about 4 Kids dubs because like nowadays I think there's a very like established idea of what anime is supposed to sound like, and
yep, Four
there's
Kids
only
dubs.
so many really famous voice actors, and like they all have the same. Anime has like a sound now in
Yeah,
English.
no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like in like I like in like the Pokemon dub or like the Sailor Moon dub, like people just
Hmm.
sound like they don't really know how to approach it, so they just treat it like it was an American cartoon or they treat it naturalistically or something. Um
Hmm.
and I just think that's really fun, even if it's maybe less the vibe that the original show is going
Oh
for.
yeah. Well, I think part of the problem is like no matter how you do things, it's not gonna have the same vibe because like exactly because Japan and Japanese and English are such different languages with so many different nuances that
Yes.
like like it's really like a dub is gonna at the end of the day be a like it's gonna be like an artistic expression to some degree, and
Yes.
I like it like when dubs kind of do their like own put their own identity on it, and that's kind of where I find distracting where a lot of dubs end up sounding the same. It's like well this sounds just like this other show that has entirely different tone and stuff. And now I'm thinking about all these different characters that sound differently.
Yeah,
Well, that sound the same. That
it's so weird that there's all these like there's like particular vocal qualities and like inflections and like there's a
mhm,
smooth breathy way of talking that isn't just everything.
mhm.
um it's really it's so weird.
Yeah.
And
But I,
I agree with you that like I think it can be worth it just to sort of have a little bit of fun with it because like one to
mhm.
one is just like not actually possible.
Well, you're not gonna get the same thing out of a one to one, anyways. Like if you try to make it one to one, it's like like the emotional resonance and the context that the Japanese people are getting isn't going to be the same as a one to one that you're going to get.
Yeah, well, not only
Like
is
you
it a
might,
different language, but like they are a cartoon is like an exaggeration of stuff. And so like
yeah,
it's not like the Japanese cartoon is acting exactly like how Japanese people speak or behave. It's like an
yeah,
extreme version of it. So like translating that to English is like multiple degrees of separation.
yeah. But yeah, no. The main reason why you should watch the four kids dub is because the opening slaps. Like the, like
This is like a
like
rap or something. I feel like I may have seen this as a
yeah,
kid.
yeah. Like the four kids dub opening. Like regardless of how like silly was like is, and maybe it's not as like musically as like good as the official openings, but it slaps. It's awesome. It's gonna be living in my head forever.
That's fun.
Like
You know what? I
like
like.
even if I
Sorry.
like even if I for some reason I start like losing my memories when I'm getting older and stuff, the four kids dub's still gonna be in there. It's
Yeah,
seeped its
the
way
Four Kids
permanently.
dub intro song is gonna be like the thing that triggers you to remember your son's name. Oh god, that's dark. No,
Uh,
I see where you're coming from. Like, I I like how both Japanese and American cartoons um have the whole idea of like the epic, crazy intro song, but they do it in totally different ways. Like Japan's usually just more poppy, but like um I don't I never watched this show, but I'm familiar with the intro song for the Gummy Bears, which is the most epic, ridiculous song. It's such an amazing song
I hear you.
for a show about gummy bears. Like I feel like the genre of kids intro music is like it's so magical because it's like there's no restraint or like hey
Yeah.
like let's dial this back. There's no fear of cheese. It's like let's just make the most like delightful, exciting, like sugary song possible.
Hmm.
Um, like I and we've gotten like the Pokemon theme song out. We've gotten gummy bears. We've gotten like fucking all kinds of ridiculous shit. Pokey rap, like um
You,
these
you know,
things
if we're
that
talking
stay in our
about
heads forever.
speaking, if we're talking about the Pokemon rap, the Pokemon journeys, the Japanese version, the ending is them like playing Shiratori, which is a Japanese word game, and it's basically a techno Poke rap, and it's like it slaps. Like
Awesome.
look up like the Pokemon like journeys like ending theme like for the Japanese. It's like I can jam to that all day.
Hey man, lick me out there. This is over.
Yeah.
I always
Um.
need more Poke Jams. But
I mean,
yeah,
Pokemon's names are in Japanese, but you'll catch some few that like aren't actually translated.
not true. Man, I love people just singing ridiculously passionately about like fucking Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever it is, like or like the Sonic the Hedgehog like character themes and stuff. Like
Mhm.
kids media, it's like people bring their
Yeah.
all into something that like is like a stupid product, but
Well,
when
there's
combined with
so
that
much.
good energy, it becomes something beautiful.
It's like when you're dealing with kids media, it's like there is so much competition to keep the attention span of kids that you
Right.
kind of need to be awesome.
That's true. That's true.
Where it's like adults don't care if something's good or not. It's like they've already got their tastes defined. Like kids are defining their tastes, and you want to bring your all.
Right. So it's like an advertising battleground to have the nostalgia thing that they can sell you can resell back to them in 20 years in a movie.
Exactly.
It's like I want them to go to my
Precisely.
nostalgic movie throwback.
It's like if you're gonna make a new IP, make it for kids because they're the ones that are gonna be buying it for like the next 50 years.
That's smart, dude. That's smart.
Yeah. We gotta start making some Bros in a Landfill IPs to sell to kids so that we're relevant in 20 years.
I hope we're more relevant in 20 years than we are now.
Yeah. Oof. Um. But yeah, no. I think I think one of the cool things about the like I get the frustration behind like the four kids sort of dubs because it's not faithful in that sense as you're not getting the intended experience.
Yes.
Like, and in some ways, it does bastardize the shows. Like, look at something like Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh was like has a lot of dark themes and stuff, and a lot of that was neutered when you was brought over to America. It's like, oh, people didn't die; they were sent to the shadow world.
Right.
But at the same time, you kind of need to know your audience when you're bringing things over. If Yu-Gi-Oh was brought over one to one like it was, well,
Well, it'd
like
have a
one to
totally different
one,
effect because like kids aren't ready
yeah.
for fucking death on their cartoons, you know. Like,
But yeah, no, but also like, well, if it was brought one to one, it'd be like TV 13, and then it would be put up for audiences for like teenagers and stuff. And let's be honest, like anime wasn't a cool thing back then, you
no.
know? Like it was like
It's
a lot of the reason
arguably not
why,
cool now.
like, I mean, it's got more cultural relevance, I would say now. So
Oh,
like
sure, sure.
it might not be cool, but like today, like you can be safe doing a one to one translation, dub, sub, or whatever, and like enough people will watch it to make money off it. Where 20 years ago, like when original Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, original One Piece came out, like I'm sure they like without those dubs, do you think anime would be as popular as it is today in the West?
It's hard to know because I just don't know what that audience was ready for. Like maybe that you're right, and those dubs were like the stepping stone that we needed for people to become comfortable with anime in
Well,
general.
but
But maybe it would
I'm
have
not
been
just
better if they just perfectly did it one to one from the get go. Who knows?
no, but I'm not. But if but we're talking about introducing an entirely new medium to a culture of people.
Yeah.
Like we're looking at like raising kids on anime TV shows that were hidden in the like that were slotted between other cartoons.
Yeah.
Like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon were slotted between other cartoons. Kids didn't know they were watching anime,
Right. It
but
was just
as they
another
got older,
cartoon.
they recognized the aesthetic, and they're like, oh, there is much more to this than I realized.
Right.
So, like, like, I highly doubt that anime would be as influential now or have the mass market appeal that it has now, like without those dubs in the
They
day.
were
And you
they
know
were
what?
the
They have their
sacrificial
charms.
lambs.
And you know what? We got some great stuff out of it. Like it might not be one to one, but if you know what, if you're into anime, if you care about the IPs, go fucking watch the subs like it was intended. Like like in some way, the argument for having like a like more artistic freedom with dubs is that you can just go watch the sub if you don't like
I I
if you want
I
an
I,
authentic experience.
I get where you're coming from. But I do like generally I like dubs to I don't want to feel like the thing is like it's
I know.
watching a dub is more than just the
Yeah.
preference of like what it how it
Oh yeah. I
feels to
know.
listen to because and I know you know this, but like
Yeah.
um a big part is not having to look at subtitles and being able to
Oh yeah.
fully take in a visual medium. And
Oh
so
yeah. No. Like.
it can feel like you're trapped between a rock and a hard place where it's like, well, do I want
Oh
to
yeah.
look at the
Well.
bottom of the screen or do I want to hear a story that isn't super accurate? One of the things that pisses me off most about like these dubs is when they like actually fuck with the story a little bit too hard
Oh yeah.
when they're trying to translate it. Like especially there's a few bad cases of this in Ghibli movies. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my most especially the most egregiously to me is in the Secret Life of Arrietty. Have you seen that movie?
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't. I imagine I'll be getting around to that at some point. Helen and I haven't watched movies as often as we did a few years ago.
Basically, like I'm not gonna spoil the story at all. But
Mm-hmm.
in the like epilogue narration,
Mm-hmm.
they add in a few more lines of narration that like really to me really undermined the themes of the story but seemed
Mm-hmm.
like they thought that the original version was a bit dark or they didn't want kids to be like feel uncertain and by doing so they undermined like what the movie was even fucking about and I watched the movie in English first and I heard that line and I thought that doesn't seem right and I looked it up and it just straight up wasn't in the original and it made me really angry.
Yeah. But here's like this is where like I think things get complicated. Is that and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Is like it's a matter of knowing your audience, and that's the frustrating thing. And when you have like different cultural norms, so let's say like you're talking about something like a Ghibli movie. Ghibli, especially given that they're licensed through Disney over here,
Yeah.
they're marketed as kids movies over here. And what's culturally acceptable or culturally thought as, oh, this is what kids should be watching over here is much different than over in Japan.
Yes.
And I can be frustrated about that. It's I feel like in this case I'd be much less frustrated about the decision to change Arietti, more frustrated with the cultural difference, like the how we almost coddle and baby our kids
Yeah,
to
I'd
not
say
deal with
that's pretty
those.
much what's happening. It's like it's coddling. I think the original story is about like without talking about the plot, like
Yeah,
it, there's a it's at least somewhat about accepting uncertainty. And like that's like an
yeah,
adult thing that kids will have to learn at some point. And I think like having that lesson in a kid's story that kids can understand is a good idea. But like I think you're right that yeah, in other parts of the world it's like no, just don't think about it. Or
hmm
to quote Book of Mormon, turn it off. And it's yeah. So maybe that's it's. But either way, like as someone who's just a fan of art and of anime, just as as a personal viewer, I find that to be really upsetting. That change.
yeah.
Um,
I would say for me, it's like I do like watching dubs when they're good because I do know I do notice the animation and like the stuff far more when I'm able to not look at the subs. I remember watching sometimes like I'll show like when I'm introducing people to anime, I'll obviously show them the dubs, but I'll be like, oh, I haven't seen the dub before, so I'll it's like my first time watching that,
right.
and it brings me back to like when I watched One Punch Man with my one friend, dubbed. It was like, holy shit! I didn't realize how amazing this
Yeah, that
looked when
show's
I was
beautiful.
first watching this.
Um,
Yeah, it's like you recognize it's beautiful, but you're not like absorbing all the detail when you're watching a sub. But
yes.
that's all. But that's also kind of what frustrates me with like how small the voice acting pool in the West is, as opposed to
Right, because
Japan,
you'll
which
just be
is
distracted by how, hey, isn't that Chris Sabat?
well. I think the other thing too with when you're talking about like Japanese, it's like because I don't speak Japanese, I'm not super familiar with the languages. I'm not as familiar with the voices like in the voice actors. Like I
Yes.
might notice like I might be like, oh wait, that sounds like that voice actor because I've heard them in a lot of stuff. But then it quickly fades because I'm not super familiar with the language, so I don't pick up all the nuances
Yeah, same here.
um
I'm
in
much
the
less
in
like
the.
it takes a. I often have that feeling of like, this sounds familiar, but I don't literally recognize who it is, and I just stop thinking about it.
But but when you're dealing with voice actors in the West, and it's a language you're aware of, and it's easier for you to like pick up voices,
Hmm.
and especially like when you start getting into like voice actors doing like hundreds of roles. It's
Yeah.
like I don't even think like most Japanese voice actors do hundreds and hundreds of roles. A lot of it's they have a few roles that they do for a long period of time,
Yes.
or like they do a lot of small roles, but they also have like some big roles that they do. But um, like like I just like, there's a few voice actors in the West that I can be like, oh yeah, like their range is nuts, and I can listen to them in multiple things and be like, wait, that was that person.
You know, like
But
I've been kind of talking a bit of shit about Chris Sabat, and I want to
yeah,
say like his range is actually good because like in
well,
Dragon Ball Z's original dub, or not the in the Funimation original dub
yeah,
of Z, there he did like a million characters, and they do
but
all
I think
sound different, have different things, but it's like he used his entire range on one show because he was like
yeah,
every other
and I think
character.
and that's kind of the problem with I would say with Sabbath. It's that like yeah, like he has a good range, but when you blow your entire range on one show, you're basically like
It's like
letting
I'm
people
familiar
like
with every aspect of his voice now, you know.
where it's like if like someone like has like like 5 to 10 voices and you hear them in like maybe like shows every so often, like you're not gonna immediately pick up on it.
Yes.
But if like when Piccolo's talking or Vegeta's talking in some show that isn't Dragon Ball, it's Piccolo or Vegeta.
Yes. And you know, it's like I know like, you know, fair play to the man, you know, like all good. but it's just, like that's just a casting thing in my opinion that is
I mean,
distracting.
it doesn't help that Dragon Ball is so iconic as well
Yes,
that
and his voices in
that
particular are like etched into people's memories.
yeah, like dude, it's like just do Dragon Ball and then retire, like, and just get all the royalties from it, like shit,
Well, I think he just likes
like
yelling into a
I know,
microphone, you know?
I know, I mean, that's all right. No,
Dude, that's
I
like
would
a
say
dream
it's probably
job.
yeah, yeah, but no, when it, I would just say just like since we've got on this conversation of voice actors, it's like there are like there's one sort of like thing that like voice acting like is clearly like dubs are clearly superior over subs. It's any sort of Dynasty Warrior type of game because oh my fucking god, um, having like conversations going around in the background, flying around in Japanese, like giving you instructions and you can't even fucking like read this text boxes because you're too busy wailing on enemies.
Sure, yeah,
Like,
that's the kind of
like,
game where like
like,
being able to
yeah,
like your eyes are doing one thing and so your ears are free for the instructions. You can't be like reading the instructions and fighting guys.
like when I like, so I finished up playing Fate Extella like a week or so ago, and that was an utter like nightmare because I'm like you have all these Japanese people like well characters like talking like on the bottom screen like giving like all this narration of all this stuff happening in the battle and I can't even pick up the flavor text of what's going on because
Yeah,
I'm like shit.
it's likely just in these kinds of situations you're just going to miss out on stuff, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a bummer.
Yeah. Or it's like at least make the text boxes big enough so I can see what they're saying while I'm fighting. I don't care if you cover the battle screen with like a like maybe with some like transparent boxes. At the very least, I can read what they're saying and fight at the same time. But if it's snugged away at the bottom of the screen, I'm like shit. Like especially when every battle plays out almost exactly the same in the game because it's kind of routine. It'd be nice to have a little bit more spice like in each individual combat.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do we've talked about One Piece, we've talked about regional differences, the tones of other anime in comparison. Is there anywhere
I
to go
just,
from
I
here?
just, I just really like the sound of Japanese people talking. What's the wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it, you know.
like,
They have a cool language.
yeah, I, I, I do feel like to some degree, like one of my one issues when I'm watching a dub over a sub is that, at times like, it almost sounds like an abridged series, and like, like sometimes I just like being able to take my anime a little bit seriously, like,
Yeah, I
and
mean, like no, I mean I like Japanese voice acting as well, but like it's also it's not. I don't think it's intended to be naturalistic. Anime is an incredibly like
it's like its own world.
yeah, it's got its own ideas of like how to present reality.
Yeah.
Like I think now, Grunt, I am yet to play Final Fantasy VII or its remake, but I've heard that
Mm-hmm.
um, my flatmate Sailor has played at least a decent amount of Final Fantasy VII remake, and he's used to more. He's not like the biggest anime dude in the world. He's used to more
Mm-hmm.
Western things, and I think there's been a significant amount of dissonance for him playing Final Fantasy VII remake because the the world and the characters look pretty realistic, and like everything's in immense proper detail, but the characters still
Yeah.
act both behave and are voiced anime like. And it's
Mm.
a weird juxtaposition because real people don't act like that. They don't make
Well,
that many noises. Certainly, they don't react with to like a normal thing in a conversation. It's just not natural. Um,
yeah.
so I think there are
Yeah.
definitely some
Mm.
weaknesses to that style if it doesn't make sense with what you're looking at.
Yeah. I wonder how the Japanese like how it sounds in Japanese just because there's so many different tonal inflections and different like rules of conversation when you listen to things in Japanese. It might sound a bit more natural rather than forced if like in a Western sense. But I'm not Japanese, so it might sound fucking weird to Japanese people as well.
Right, but it's like that's what they're used to fiction looking like, you know?
Yeah,
um,
or at least anime fiction.
or anime
I don't know
fiction.
how rest of like. I mean, then again, like there's quite a few Japanese commercials that are just like that make anime look normal.
Right, right. Yeah, like I'm just speculating. Like it might be just the general like their basic assumptions of how like a movie should work or might be different because I haven't seen a lot of just like I don't
Yeah.
know if I can think of like a Japanese movie I've seen other than like Seven Samurai. I think it's Japanese,
Have you seen the
which is from
Have you
like
seen the Ace Attorney
the
live?
50s.
Have you seen the Ace Attorney live action movie?
It's fantastic.
I
I
know,
love that movie, but I can't call
I
that
know.
like a good representation of Japanese films because it's
Mhm.
obviously based on a game that is insane.
Yeah,
And their approach to making it live action was not to try and make Ace Attorney realistic, but to make it even more ridiculous than the original.
yeah.
Huge fan of that. Um,
Mhm. I would say like the only other Japanese movies I can think off the top of my head was the Death Note live action movies, which I liked quite a bit.
right. I
Um,
mean, but I'd like to see Japanese
but
movies
no,
that aren't like an adaptation of an anime either, or
yeah,
like just to see what they normally make. Because I will say, like, if you watch movies from other countries, like, uh, the what is considered normal or the basic assumptions of how to put together something are a bit different. Like I've
yeah.
spent a little bit of time watching a few years ago. I spent a little while watching a K drama called "Oh My Ghost," and like it's really different. Like it's I guess it's kind of like a romantic comedy thing that takes place in like a restaurant, like between like chefs. But there's also supernatural elements. But like there's lots of stuff where like everybody is like caked in makeup, and that's like just completely like that's just how the show looks, and it's like female, male, regardless of age. You can't tell how old anyone is because everyone is so like dolled up, and it's just like a complete assumption that that's how TV should look. Um, which even though it's kind of arbitrary, I feel like it's the same as like how like in movies and TV, there's like an accepted frame rate of what's cinematic, and that a higher frame rate is less appealing to us, even though it looks more like reality. Um, so I feel like the way that anime is voice acted could very well be basically one of these weird tropes that we just that's just accepted there and only seems weird to us.
Yeah. 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 Like media be like that, but that's I think it's also sort of what like makes media as an art form just like media as an art form. Yeah, because whatever. Like when you're looking at like movies or cartoons or like any sort of like filmography, I guess art in general technically, like this is where like the whole like when you're looking at object like activity and media and stuff, it's culture like in this world like varies so much and the values in art and the values in the world varies so much and sometimes it's just cool to see what other people how the other people see the world because sometimes film is the only way to really appreciate that.
Well, I think it reveals like cultural assumptions about like what is normal.
Hmm.
Because like yeah, like these Japanese cartoons, when they were first being brought over, like the I don't know 4 kids or whatever look down there like there's no way we can show this to our kids. This is one of the most popular franchises ever, One Piece, and it's like yeah, but these guys have got guns, they shoot each other, they smoke cigarettes. Like
Uh,
this is fucked up. We have to do something about this.
have you have you seen like the Yu-Gi-Oh 4 kids like censorship
I think
um
in bits and pieces. I know that like oh yeah yeah that's like where they like just point their fingers instead of guns and stuff.
yeah.
Like or it's like it doesn't even make sense, but like they don't have the production values to rewrite the scenes totally. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I think that stuff's interesting. And
No,
I'm sure we've talked about in bits and pieces before on the
no,
show otherwise,
what I
but there's
find
like the like sexual humor is pretty normal in kids shows in Japan as well,
Mhm,
or at least
mhm.
was.
Yeah.
So that's
I mean,
weird.
I mean, you still kind of see it. Like, I think one of the weird things you see with in Japanese movies, like, it's not, it's considered as weird to have like cartoon kids naked, at least male, like naked boys and
Yeah, that's one thing.
like
Yeah, yeah,
anime.
like in early Dragon Ball, like Goku was
Like,
running around naked, and it's like
Right,
Uh,
like even something as recent as Gurren Lagann has like a cut with a naked boy.
yeah, yeah.
Like like it's
I think it's changed a
coming from the
little bit.
West,
I think in Dragon Ball Kai, I think there was a little bit of like censoring of stuff like that. Um,
but that's more of the Western influence because you're seeing more of a Western influence on Japan, like ever since like the 50s, like
right. Maybe you
slowly and
might be right.
surely.
But like honestly, like I think that's an interesting thing there because like I totally get where they're coming from before. Well, it's like, well, it's just like a like little kids run around naked all the time. You know, like it's
Hmm.
it makes sense that they wouldn't really see it as anything that bad. I think, but I guess ideas change.
Yeah, but you know, culture be like that. Now all I can think about is like since we were talking about censorship, is like how even more fucked up the Yu-Gi-Oh manga was as opposed to the anime.
The Yu-Gi-Oh
Like
manga.
yeah, it's like with this the season zero of Yu-Gi-Oh. Have you ever seen season zero of Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I actually watched a video recently about how like originally Yu-Gi-Oh wasn't really that much about the card game, and that there are
Yeah.
lots of different. It was more about tabletop games, and then they, because
Hmm.
this part was popular,
Not
they've
just
made the whole show around it.
not just tabletop games, just games in general.
Right,
So,
but it's like but
one
games
of
to like a twisted like to the death fucking game of like
yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah,
Yeah, that
but
it's actually like it's been kind of wild discovering how weird that franchise is.
yeah. No, I absolutely love the first I think 12 volumes of the original Yu-Gi-Oh. But like going into like season zero of the anime, like that's even like neutered like the stuff in the manga.
Right.
Like it's kind of silly. Like Yu-Gi-Oh like was censored in the anime, then it was further censored brought over to the West.
Right. So at this point, it's gone through multiple layers of dumbing
Hmm.
down, or not dumbing down, but like cleansing or whatever. Because yeah,
Hmm.
I watched Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a little kid, and it's like such a kid's show to me. It's hilarious that originally people are getting fucking murdered.
Yeah. Or like I highly recommend anybody to take a look at the old Yu-Gi-Oh manga. Like that cuz it's so good. It is so good. And I know I'm kind of a pre like just kind of like on my pedestal right now, but I like there's something really special about seeing Yu-Gi-Oh's humble beginnings before it turned into the card game.
Right. But this is
Um
before it became like an empire, one of the biggest franchises in the world, and it was like,
yeah.
and like the art style hadn't necessarily solidified, and like yeah, like I think that stuff interesting is really interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Anyway,
we're approaching an hour. Was
yeah.
there anything else you wanted to talk about? I feel like we
No,
covered
I think
quite a
yeah,
lot of
I don't think we
ground.
could bring anything. Yeah, I don't think we could bring anything else up without like going way off topic and adding like 20 more minutes onto the.
Yes. Uh, man, what is going on with this Luffy form? I'm trying to like. I wonder what predictions I can possibly make based on this. He's got
Yeah,
robot arms, maybe, or
and
I,
I honestly
and he's
don't
got a
remember. I do want
fucking
to get around
giant hole, like scar on his chest. I guess he got shot at some
like
point. I gotta.
like
What the fuck am I
like
looking at?
actually like since we're talking about anime, I'd almost like to make a formal suggestion like a formal suggestion or formal uh challenge of sorts.
Okay, what's that?
What if we started like doing some sort like instead of like doing the seasonal anime thing because I feel like now like at least with the coronavirus
It's gonna be slowing down, yeah.
like it's gonna be slow down it's gonna be I'm in a bit of an awkward place to be able to do that. What if we started doing like some sort of like we anime suggestion like thing where like we both watch like a certain anime to a certain point and then we talk about it on an episode.
Ah, yeah. So like, kind of like a trade.
Yeah,
Okay, I could be down for that.
like because there was we did something like that on Ace 3 Online, a like back in the day. I don't know if that's when you were on or not,
Hmm.
but that introduced me to some interesting old anime, and I think like like even if we just like did it like once a month, where we like want to like, well, I mean, once a month would be like that'd be like every like one of every 2 episodes we'd be talking about that.
Sure.
But like it could even branch off into its own show where we record stuff if we want to. Who knows? But I think it'd be good for us to make some routine of like checking out like some recommended shows that we've watched.
I uh, I can only imagine there's a very limited number of shows I've watched that you haven't seen, and there's a
Yeah.
million
Well,
shows.
I wouldn't.
But I guess it
I mean, I wouldn't
would
even.
it have to be anime specific or
I guess it doesn't have to be anime specific. It might. Like I feel like we've kind of hit a point in the podcast where we've talked about so many topics
right?
that it'd be good for us to start introducing things to each other.
Sure, I'm just discovering some new shit. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, so like if we just so maybe we can just like one form of media that can be easily accessible for like free,
Yes.
or the other person doesn't mind like putting money towards, and then talking like then we like both talk about our experience about that, like even if that's just supplemental to the whatever else we talk about on the episode.
Cool. I think I'm down for that. All right. Well, look forward everybody to some
Yeah.
episode with some kind of format like that. But until next time, I believe that's Bean Bros in the Landfill signing off.
Signing off.
Later, bitches. Cut that part.
Woo!
Our fans are not bitches.